showcase and marathon showing you some great people. We have Jade Aurora, an author, and she writes books. Of course, she does, but fictional books. So a lot of the people we've been interviewing are mostly been in sort of writing um, text, but we love fiction. We love the stories. So it's always great to do that. Hi, Jade. Welcome.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. And why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
So, as you stated before, my name is Jade Aurora. I am based in Michigan. I'm 33 and I am an urban fantasy author. My first book was published in July of 2020. And here are my books Motor City Witches 1 and 2. And in addition to writing, I am also an artist and illustrator. I also paint. And if there's anyone watching that's into anime and cosplay, I'm also a cosplayer. So if you're in the Metro Detroit area, you may have seen me at YumaCon at some time.
Hmm.
I am also a pinup model and a burlesque performer.
That's a great combination. So you say urban fantasy novels. Uh,
Yes.
for people who are not familiar with that genre, what is that genre?
Urban fantasy is basically fantasy, but it takes place in like an urban setting, like cities.
Hmm.
So I'm from Detroit. So of course I set my books in Detroit because that's what I'm most familiar with.
And it is. And what are Motor City Witches? That sounds fun.
Yeah, so Motor City Witches is about three women, Rochelle, Sarai, and Louise. They're all three of them are friends. They're in their early 20s. So they so now Louise is very familiar with magic and the occult because she comes from multiple generations of witches, so she's raised in it. But Rochelle and Sarai, who are also childhood friends, they become interested in the occult through their friendship with Louise.
Mhm.
And the book touches on a lot of issues. Like Sarai comes from a conservative Christian household, and she's kind of the family black sheep because she's an aspiring horror author. She is a fan of like the goth aesthetic. So her family doesn't really accept her hobbies or her interests. Rochelle is like myself, a pinup model. And one of her struggles is she is just getting out of a very toxic and emotionally abusive relationship. So like her character development is like when she starts practicing magic, she learns the importance of self-love, rebuilding her confidence, and also so she starts getting into glamour magic. And what I think makes these books unique is that it does have supernatural elements, but it also includes actual spiritual and magical practices.
So right away, this sounds wonderful. And I think Detroit's an unusual place. I've seen Chicago, I've seen Salem, I've seen New York, I've seen Los
Right.
Angeles. I'm a big fan of Detroit because you guys have a great urban farming community there.
Yeah.
So that and you guys have got a real renewal energy going around there. Uh,
Yeah.
it's hard. Detroit's a hard city, so and having that behind it sounds like such a great place to present. Where do they find these books right away? Then I want to talk about a little more
So
of the other things you do.
you can find them on the publisher's website. So blackgoldpublishing.com. And it has a directory that takes you directly to the bookstore page. They are also both available on Amazon. If you are interested in digital books, I have digital copies available on Etsy as well as my coffee page.
Okay, and what's your title on Etsy? What's your
So
shop on Etsy?
the name of my shop on Etsy is Roxy Joe Creation. So Roxy capital J-O and then capital C for Creations. That's the name of my shop.
Terrific. So yeah, for anyone out there who's been doing, so I know a lot of our people are doing Etsy. If you do buy Amazon, go to your local group, find out who has Amazon Cares, and utilize that as well, because that's a way to spread the joy this year. Several of the big groups have
And
Amazon
as
Cares.
always, I'm always open for art commissions too. So if there's those that are interested in having art done for them, I'm always open.
So let's talk about that. So art commissions, you talk about art commissions. What type of art are you doing now that you do commissions for?
I do a lot of fantasy art, of course, but I also do pinup art because, like I said, I'm in the pinup. I'm part of that community with because of the burlesque. So I do a lot of vintage pinup art. I'm pretty much open to anything. So, but my primary genres are pinup, fantasy. I also do a little bit of erotic art as well. So,
Sounds like a wonderful combination.
yeah.
Um, it does. It sounds like a pretty amazing thing. So pinup. It's a word I haven't heard anyone use recently, because when I think of Hilda, I think of all those
Right,
wonderful paintings on the front of World War II
right.
vintage plane.
And that's kind of thing when I got started. I started modeling in 2012, so it's been about 10 years. I didn't know pinup models still existed until I started seeing models on like my Facebook feed. And I was like, people still do this because I've always been a fan of vintage fashion. Like growing up, I used to watch old black and white movies with my grandmother. So I used to always like how glamorous these women were with the hairstyles and the dresses they wore. So when I
Mhm.
saw that there's still a niche for this, that's when I started looking on how to find photographers in my area. And that's how I basically got started.
That's wonderful. I know. I think when I think of the old movies, I think of Mae West, because I know
Yeah.
both both off screen, she was a very fantastic, very free person, but on screen, oh my God, she just lit it up.
Yeah.
So when I think of that sort of thing, and so that's great. I mean, there's a lot of energy behind that, so I think there's a lot of room for that, especially in our witchy vibe, just because it seems to be growing. I'm noticing more memes with like individual pictures of people being, the sort of
Right.
pinup girl on the
Yeah.
broom and all that. So the idea of the sexy witch is still very much there. And I know some people don't like that imagery, but a lot of us do.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun.
And also for those that do get my books, I just want to add a disclaimer.
Hmm.
So my books are for readers 18 and up because my books do deal with it
That's
has,
good to know.
yeah, adult, it has strong language. It also has adult themes. It also deals with dark themes such as mental illness, abuse, violence. And so it's not for your kids. So I just wanted to, and one of my,
Well, that's a
one,
good thing, because a lot of the authors have been talking about their kid books.
yeah,
And when I think of urban sort of fantasy books, I tend to think of the YA market, the young adult market.
yeah.
So there's not that. So Motor City is for us adults. That's always a pleasure to see it being written for adults. Huh? Yeah. So let us go ahead and show you're doing pinup, you're doing art commissions. How do people get to you for art commissions?
So I'm on Facebook, Twitter, as well as Instagram. So if you find me on Facebook, you can look me up as Jade Aurora. You can
Hmm.
also I also have a Facebook page called Roxy Joe Creation, so you can find me there because that's where I have most of my artwork. You can
Hmm.
also have Instagram. I have an Instagram page under Roxy Joe Creations, and also my main Instagram is Jade Aurora 1989. That's also my Twitter username. So that's where you're able to find me if you want to commission me for artwork.
Terrific. So I'm going to ask a little bit. We have a lot of young witches and pagans and women and men and every other form of the spectrum, but they're always looking at getting modeling. I've heard this a lot from many of the younger folk in our community about modeling or being more
Right.
visual. Can you give them any advice, since you've been at this for a short while?
First things first, do your homework because if you're starting out, you're going to be eager to just get started taking photos and things like that, but you absolutely need to do your research on your photographers. If possible, ask for references of other people they've worked with because unfortunately there are predatory people in this industry, so you have to be vigilant. Like safety is extremely important.
And that makes sense. And then once they know that's true, and then you should figure out how to be their authentic self, or as because everybody
Right.
thinks of modeling as being and I'm being set straight by a lot of the people that I've been listening to, is that it's really about being authentic. But a lot of people feel like it's fake, it's modeling, it's plastic. That's not true, is it?
No, like as long as you're enjoying what you're doing and you're comfortable, it's going to show in your photos. And that's another thing I wanted to get to. Like, not only do be vigilant, but do not be afraid to set boundaries.
Hmm.
Like, I'm comfortable with artistic nudity, but there's some models that are not comfortable with it. But you need to set that boundary and don't let someone pressure you into taking photos that you're not comfortable with, because if you're uncomfortable or unhappy, it's going to show in your body language, it'll show in your facial expressions, and you don't want that.
Because people do in this day and age, especially as we learn more and more about social media, we pick up nuances ever more. So last set, you said you do burlesque.
Yes.
What shows are you doing now? Do you have any shows out there that people can go out and
That
see?
I haven't that I don't the last show I did was in it was in August. It was the Detroit Erotic Art Expo. So I
Hmm.
kind of took a little bit of hiatus, but so at the moment I don't have any shows booked yet, but I'm open for bookings.
Okay, so Jade Aurora. Show
Yes.
us your books one more time. Let everybody see those. Motor City Witches. It sounds exciting. It sounds interesting. These are books I'm going to have to read. And there you go. Thank you. And happy Yule. And so people find her, Jade Aurora. You can find her on Facebook. It's blackgold.com for your publisher.
Blackgoldpublishing.com.
Blackgoldpublishing.com.
Yes.
Try it out. It sounds like an exciting publishing company. And any last words you'd like to say to our audience out there for this holiday season?
I just want to say thank everyone for listening, and I hope you have a safe and fun holiday.
And we'll keep an eye on Detroit. I think it's an up and rising community. So thank you. And we continue on our marathon and buy these books, Motor City 1 and 2. It sounds so exciting. I learn something every day.